Hello, I'm Helen from Journal with Purpose and welcome to my latest YouTube video. Today we're going to be creating a beautiful window page in our journals, and I'm going to be using this new set of brush pens that have been very kindly sent to me by Ohuhu. This is their Maui series with 160 colours and their water-based brush pens. I've actually had these for a couple of months now. I've been trying them out. There are so many beautiful colours in here. And one of the things that I really like is the fact that they've also included some spare nibs for both ends of the pens in here. And so you've got a nice big brush pen on one end, and then on the other you've got a fine liner pen. So rather than the bullet nibs which you often get, you've actually got a really nice fine pen there, which for me is perfect because I use pens like this all the time for adding details to my drawings and also writing. So I really like them having that fine liner end. Ohuhu also sent me this really lovely pack of 48 colours of alcohol markers, and I went for the pastel set. I have already swatched them out, really beautiful colours. I won't be using those ones today because they would soak through my journal pages, but they've got the brush nibs on one end and then I've gone for the chisel tip on the other. But I do use alcohol markers when I'm creating ephemera, perhaps on mixed media paper and things like that, that I then want to cut out and actually glue into my journals. But it's the water-based markers that I will be using throughout today. One of my absolute favourite things to do with water-based brush pens is create some pretty backgrounds using a water spray. So I'm just going to grab a few colours out from here. Let's see how we get on. I just love the colours in these. They're just so pretty. So I'm going to start off, I'm going to be working on this page and the page underneath because we're going to be cutting out some windows. And the first thing that I want to start off with is some plastic packaging and start adding some ink to here and spraying with water. I also meant to say with the Ohuhu pens, I've got a 10% discount code which you can use up until the 11th of July. I'll leave links to the products I've used and the discount code down below just in case you're interested. But what I'm going to share today will be fine with kind of any water-based brush pens. So I'm going to start off with this kind of deepish purple. I'm just scribbling onto some plastic here. It's something I've shared a few times, just such a lovely way of getting a pretty background onto your page. And I've got a little Tim Holtz mini water spritzer here. Just going to add plenty of water to that. And I'm going to cover up my left-hand page there. And then I'm just going to start dabbing this plastic down onto my page to start transferring the ink around. And we'll be kind of cutting through these pages, but also adding some extra decoration on top. I just love that already. It's just so pretty. I'm then going to use a pink, and I might try perhaps a little bit of this turquoisey colour on top as well. And again, another quick spritz of water. And I'm just kind of letting it bounce almost off the page just to get a really lovely transference of that ink around. and I absolutely love how that's looking. So before we cut some windows into it, I just want to make sure this is really nice and dry on my page. So I'm going to use a heat tool for that, but you could just leave it to dry, but I just think that's so pretty. So I've now dried off that page. It's gone a tiny bit crinkly, but I know that once my journal's been closed for a couple of days, it will be fine. I also find it's useful to dry it from the back as well as the top, and that just helps even out some of the wrinkles a little bit. The next thing I'm going to do is draw out where I want my windows, and I want two kind of squarish windows. I think I'm going to go in 7 by 7 centimetres. So I'm just working out where I want mine to start. So you can adjust these for the size of whatever journal you're working in. It's quite useful when you're working in a dotted journal because you've got those as a guide as well. I really like creating kind of cutout elements in my journal pages, and I don't tend to waste anything I cut out. This is going to be far too pretty to throw away, so I'll probably use it in one of my collages so that I've got some lovely kind of pretty watercolour effect pieces of paper just ready to use. They'd also be great for adding as writing spots to junk journals, or kind of any of your other little creative projects where you want some pretty scraps of paper. And so at this point, it's just worth checking that you're happy with the placement of those windows. And I'm going to be cutting through mine using a craft knife. So I'm going to pop a cutting mat underneath my page. And I've got a steel ruler here. You don't want to kind of risk messing up any of your other rulers. And I've got a craft knife here. It's actually got a ceramic blade, but any kind of craft knife would be fine. Or if you don't have one, perhaps just try running scissors just along a little bit to make a gap and then actually cutting it out around the outside. So I'm just lining my ruler up. And I'm just taking my time with it and making sure I get a nice clean cut on there. So I'm just going to carry on for a few minutes, cutting along each of these lines until I can remove the windows. So I've now got my windows cut out, and these are the pieces that I will definitely be keeping. In fact, I think I am going to use them as writing spots in my junk journal. Just so pretty. I now want to start adding some flowers around my window frames. I'm going to use 2 different coloured brush pens for this, and then I'm going to use a green to add some stems and leaves to kind of tie them all in together. And I'm going to be keeping them really simple. So I'm just going to be doing some 5-petaled loop-the-loop flowers. And then I'll probably add some details over the top of these with a different fine liner pen a little bit later on. So I'm just going to alternate the colour of the flowers. And because we're using them straight from the brush pen this time rather than diluted, they sit really lovely on top of the kind of watercolour effect background underneath. You can still see little speckles of it coming through, but I absolutely love that. So I'm just going to spend a minute filling it up all of the frame around the edges of the window using these two brush pens. So I've now got my happy little flowers added all around the outside. I've decided I want to add a little frame to my windows. So I'm just going to pop that kind of cutting mat underneath so I can run my pen along the edge. I just thought it'd be quite nice to get a little bit of definition around the outside of those. And then the next thing I'm going to do is add some stems and leaves before adding some details to those flowers. Okay, I really like that. I think that looks nice having that frame. So I'm going to keep these little stems and leaves nice and simple. So I'm just going to do kind of little windy lines and just add some little leaves and just kind of work my way around. Some of the stems will have 2 leaves, some will have 1. And just keep doing this all the way around the page until all of my flowers are joined up in kind of like a little daisy chain. Then the final thing I'm going to do to this page is add some details to the flowers, and I'm going to use the fine liner end now, and I'm going to do on the pink ones just some little dots in the centre of them, and then for the kind of greeny ones it's going to do some kind of loose outlining of the petals, kind of purposefully going a little bit outside the lines with those, just to give them kind of a nice loose effect. So just little dots, and then I'm kind of starting at a centre point and just bringing out those petals, say often outside the edges of the ink. So it's going to finish doing that to all of the flowers. I now want to add a little bit of lettering inside this window. I am going to be writing on the rest of the page, but I want this bit to kind of be clearly visible, so I'm going to keep it closed for now. And I want to letter out "Look for Beauty." Just kind of a little reminder to always be looking out for just the beauty that's all around us. And then I'm going to use the fine liner end of one of the other colours just to outline all the letters. And you could decide to do that just to add a little drop shadow if you want, but I actually quite like adding the outline all the way around. I just think it really helps that lettering to stand out. It's why for me it's great having those fine liners on the end again, because I can use the same colours that I've already used and know everything's going to tie in really nicely together. And just so great being able to get those kind of fine line details. Okay, so I'm just going to spend a quick minute finishing this part off. I've now got all of the decorative elements done, so I want to spend a little bit of time writing about the beauty that I've seen all around me just in the last couple of days, and I'm going to do it from here all the way down, so you're just going to then catch glimpses of that through this little window. So yeah, I'm just going to think about the dog walks that I've been on the last couple of days, what I can see from my window, beauty in messages and emails I've received, anything like that. So that is my journal writing now added. Absolutely loved reflecting on the beauty that I've seen around me, and that little reminder to make sure we're always paying attention. If you wanted, you could of course add extra decorations or anything you like around there, but I really like how these look together with just that little lettered reminder up there and a peek at my writing down below. Well, I really hope you've enjoyed this creative session. As I've said, I'll leave links to the brush pens by Ohuhu and the discount code in the video description down below. As always, I want to say a massive thank you to everybody who's joined me over on Patreon. I hope you're doing really well. Thank you ever so much for watching. I look forward to speaking with you really soon in my next video.